got it. We got it.
Settle
And we
down.
are live. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. It's great to see you.
I'm Jacob.
Did
Also
you?
good to
He's about to sit right here. We have a first for a show today. And Whitney, if you're watching, you gave me this idea because you were writing in our Facebook group, which is Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club. Who does live videos of punch needle, like teaching punch needle? And it seemed like the answer was not a lot of people right now. I know my good friend Rebecca Martin of Storyteller World, she teaches punch, and I think she has some videos. But I thought for today, we are running a live show. And did you notice that on Monday I said happy hump day and happy Wednesday to everybody? Did that screw you up as much as it screwed me up? I just want to remind you that today's Wednesday, happy Wednesday. And I wanted to remind you, if you are taking the Designing Like the Book of Kells, the Celtic class with me, it runs this afternoon and again on Sunday. It's the same class both times. You are welcome to log on for either or both, no matter which one you signed up for, right? That is absolutely fine. Whatever you want. Doesn't matter to me. As long as I know you're signed up, it doesn't matter. But I just wanted to mention for those of you who are thinking of taking it today, I just want to point out, this is the way it is on the website, but in case you didn't notice, I am running the class at 2 today, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time till 4. Normally I do 2 evening classes, but the feedback I was getting from people in other parts of the country and other countries was do some different times. So I just want to be sure that you notice that if you're thinking I'm taking the Wednesday class, I normally do the Wednesday class also in the evening, but tonight I'm not doing it. I'm doing it this afternoon. We're running coffee time between noon and 1 Eastern Standard Time right now, right here. And I'll have about an hour off, and then I will run the Book of Kells, Designing Like the Book of Kells for the first time. And it's a great presentation. You liked what you saw of it, right?
I did.
It's really cool. We are drawing knots step by step. It's going to be really easy. Knots and corner knot borders. We are doing like bestiary, medieval bestiary. Lots of fun games, lots of challenges, lots of drawing together in this installment, right? In this Design Like class. More than usual, we're drawing together because Celtic art is a bit fiddly and complicated, isn't it? So let's get started. We're going to run a live punch show today, but let me see what buddies are here. We got a different setup happening, making it. Is it hot in here?
Thanks,
I mean,
Deanna.
no, leave it. If it's, I mean, we had the heater on. I never know if it's me. I can just take my arm warmers off. I'll just take my arm, cut these right off of a sweater, right? I felted it by accident in the wash. Couldn't hook with, no, don't, yeah, just take it out. Taking those guys right off. Put them back when I get cold, which will be 10 seconds. Candace, great to see you. Candace, did you answer me about the turquoise for the truck? I want to make sure I'm not holding you up on that. Cold front coming in should put us in the 50s. Oh, poor you. We were at 46 this morning. I thought that was pretty good temperature for January. Linda Ann, my love, good to see you. Morning. Mom, good morning. I am so overdue for a catch up with you. It has got to be soon. Sunny, breezy Granby. Well, that's where the sun is. Beautiful day. It is super overcast here, but at least it's bright and mild. Andrea, good to see you. You are in the UK, I know. Had some sunshine today, but not a winter person. I hear that. Got some more done on my tavern sign. Excellent. I love what you sent. I love what we said. I can't wait to see more. That is exciting. The cottage with the 4 seasonal trees. I love that. That was a great design. And you know, Andrea, if you feel like it, and everybody, gallery night is coming up this coming Friday night. This Friday night is gallery night. So please send me what you're working on. Andrea, if you feel like sending, can I use this sketch or do you have it transferred? Can I use something of that design? Because I'm hoping and I'm planning on using that tavern design from the Designing Like Tavern Sign series for the current book I'm working on, the Design Like book for Rug Cooking magazine, right? So if you want to share that, I would love to share that this gallery night. If you've got stuff you're working on, whether it's a work in progress, a finished work, an older work, a current drawing, an idea, and you want to send it in for this gallery night. Jane, my buddy, is pulling everything off and putting it together for me so that we are ready to roll. Gallery night out this coming Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I hope that your work is in there. I hope that it is. I hope everybody's work is in there. Crystal, great to see you. Where winter has forgotten how to winter. Oh, that is so poetic. I love that. It's true, and it's really scary, isn't it? Oh, man. Chrissy, good to see you. It is coffee time. Oh, I'm so glad you're there. Nancy, good to see you. 20 degrees there. Sunny, no rain, snow. That's success, isn't it? That is a happy day. Oh, what did somebody say? I read something, one of these stupid quotes yesterday. It was something like, um, I forget who said it. It was something like, "You're not cold, you're not hungry, you should be happy." Like very basic. Maybe it was like Henry David Thoreau, like that kind of thing. That kind of like setting the bar low thing. Sometimes it's good to set the bar very low so you're not disappointed, right? Carol P., good to see you in St. George, Utah. And Sharon, good to see you in rainy Vancouver. It's often rainy in Vancouver, isn't it? I feel like I see that typed that way a lot. Oh man. Kirsten, great to see you. Good afternoon in Vermont. Freezing drizzle. Man, you are getting slammed with winter. That Crystal, winter is in Vermont this year. Kirsten keeps getting slammed with the craziest storms. And of course, New York. We don't want to forget New York. That wasn't that long ago. Karen, good to see you. Snowy, cold, windy, Black Forest. I just want to say we have that date on the calendar. What was it? March 11th for a hook-in in East Hampton, Massachusetts. So, Karen, I know you're coming to this part of the country in March. I wondered if it was that part or that date. Anyway, it made me think of that because that would be great to get to put our little trains together for that day or the overnight. Cats Gallery, great to see you. Ava, great to see you in Indiana. Very happy that you're there. Savannah, Georgia, we know. That is one of the prettiest cities in the country. Linda Ann says, thank goodness you reminded us about the time for the class today. That's what I thought that this morning. I woke up at 4 and never went back to sleep. So I'm a bit like frenetic energy, but I did think that most people might be thinking automatically it's the same time frame as usual, where today it's not. I'll try this differently, and if it turns out that some people can't join live, because I was experimenting with doing an earlier time for different time zones, then I will run a third time. I will be happy to do that. So we can always figure that out if it doesn't work or if that threw some of the regulars who are used to joining on Wednesday nights. Linda H. in sunny Massachusetts. Good to see you. I think in North Connecticut, in your part of Mass, that is where the sun is hanging out right now. Linda B., good to see you. I haven't even started. You are not late. I think I must be. April, good to see you. Okay, Candace, I'm going to look for your answer. I'm sorry about that. It is a really rough week for me. And if you have ordered the t-shirt braiding thing, just know that we're also working on that. It's just that I know we are 2 weeks out for that. And in the meantime, we have a few things I'll remind you about that we're really ramping up on quickly. So everything is coming out and everything will arrive in time. I just advertised that class very early. Much earlier, much longer window than I usually give because I did it so early. Yeah, some rugs are up behind us. These guys, this is our workroom, but this is normally the wall that you don't see. We rejigged a little bit in here to make this live punch needle happen, which hopefully it will happen. Lori, good to see you. Good morning. Happy that you're there. And Sharon says, happy for the live punch show. You have Alice Butler's books and you love all her rugs. Me too. We are like pigging out on Alice Butler lately. I love her so much. By the way, if you are a Patreon member, thank you very much. If you are not, think about joining as a Patreon member, supporting the channel, the brand, what we do, these live shows. Just before the show, I was going to do it a couple days ago and I ran out of time. I sent out a second Patreon email, a second free pattern for the month, and it is Flowering Peach Tree. It looks like this. It's an Alice Butler design. So this is a free design that just went out to all Patreon members this morning. Jacob, what was the clever thing you said about this, that if you were to punch this design, how would you do it?
Oh, that I would do half of it quite spooky and
the Halloween,
like a graveyard, and I would do the other
like
half.
dead.
Yes, quite dead. I just didn't want to use that word. But thank you. And I would do the other half super vibrant, very bright, and very blooming.
I really like that.
Sorry, I'm also like...
You're working on something.
Still trying to rev my engine up here.
No, I really love that. I really love that. And, I said to the Patreon members, we're sucking down coffees quickly. I said to the Patreon members in that email, just so you know, because I know everybody, all rug designers feel differently about their work and their policies. My policy is always with my designs. If you buy a design or if I give you a design through Patreon, free patterns, you do it however you want. And I know that Rob Hugo, who is like the surviving family member of Alice Butler and Vic Hugo, who I'm in touch with all the time, he feels the same way. When he sees patterns that are done in different colors and stuff, things that I forward him that people in our group have done, he is ecstatically happy to see a different version of stuff. So don't feel like we are forcing you to be sort of married to that color plan, if you're not feeling that color plan, you should absolutely do it however you want, and don't feel weird or shy at all about showing a rug that you did that was altered or different, like what Jacob's describing with the flowering peach tree, half of it being dead, for lack of a better word, and half of it being like super colorful and lush. Great idea, right? Great spin. I'm on board with that. Rob's on board with that. You do whatever you want with all of the ribbon candy hooking patterns, because I'm not that way. I don't feel like that. Okay, good. I think I'm maybe caught up on the thread. So let's do a little bit of housekeeping before we get going. Linda Ann, guess what came? Guess what came yesterday? This adorable card, which I won't read now. I absolutely love it. It looks like almost like a Celtic illumination, right? A little bit of foreshadowing to later. Linda Ann sent her Van Gogh rug for the exhibit. Here we go. And Linda Ann, I just want to say, this is the size that many people have done, because you thought it was super small, and it's not. It is gorgeous. It is gorgeous. We opened it like 1 minute before the show. I'm going to bring it in close up. I absolutely love it. It's all velvet. Is it all velvet? Did I know that? I mean, it's all velvet. Look at that. Isn't that like, ooh. Ooh. It is super, super, super pretty. Look at that.
Oh, my Lanta.
Oh, my Lanta. Look at that. Look at that picture of the over on this side, right? The like vase of roses. So good. Look at that seat with all those colors. Let me bring it in real close. Oh, no, Karen, that's a bummer. Dang it, that's a bummer. All right, let me think on that. Let me think on that, because it's not exactly in stone yet. I know the texture is great, isn't it, Crystal? Crystal, do you ever do stuff with velvet? I know yarn is your thing, but I wonder if you ever do anything with velvet. And have you started the 3 molds? Most importantly, this is amazing. I'm so glad that you sent this. I'm so glad it's going to be up. And for those of you who, I'm going to talk to Pierre, but for those of you who have sent Van Gogh rugs, I'm just going to check with everybody. But because this is the back, which is super, super fine, because the other gallery show is in April, right? And coming up, I think it's going to be at the beginning of April. I'm still waiting for a date from Pierre. I'm wondering how many of the Van Gogh rugs I can hold onto and put up as one wall of that exhibit too. I'm going to check with everybody, or maybe I'll have Jane check with everybody individually to see if that's okay, because I figure, why not, right? I have them all here, and there are possibilities of passing them on as a group, and I would do that at my expense, to another state for another person who's a close buddy in our group to put them up at a venue in a different state. So we're going to be in touch with you if you sent a Van Gogh rug. If you want your Van Gogh rug back as soon as the Hartford show is done, like in January at the end of this month, I will do it. But if you don't mind it traveling a little bit further and reaching some other people very safely with insurance through very careful post, then that will be a possibility too that we will broach with you in the next few days via email. It is so beautiful. Oh, Stephanie, good to see you. It is a very cool chair. I love it. Oh, it was your first time using velvet. Well, you killed it. You killed it.
Also.
I love that picture on the wall too. Jacob, you were saying you love like the skewered feel to it, don't you?
Yeah.
Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
But.
No. Yeah. Well, you were thinking it was like the actual piece, but it's even just the shape of it. It's very squared, and then whoop.
Yeah.
Kind of goes off. I like that a lot.
It is. It has a lot of motion. It's very artsy.
Certain je ne sais quoi.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. That was good for all our Canadian friends out there, all of our French speakers. Yeah, my C-section just went right into the camera. All right, so let's work on some other stuff. So we got a bunch of stuff going. I forgot to also say, my buddy Ann Palizzo sent her rug. I don't think I showed you this yet. Did I show you this yet? I think I showed you on a gallery night, but Van Gogh Under the Sea. This is, again, by Ann Palizzo, one of my buddies. She just arrived in Florida, I think, today. She's down there for a while. I won't see her again until, I think, May. She's normally up in this part of the country, I think in New Hampshire. But yeah, she's one of my buddies. She always comes out when we do stuff. And she did this beautiful Van Gogh. Again, I'm sure I showed this on gallery night. Sorry, silk for the hair. But now I have it in person. And if you are still working on yours, please do. This is beautiful. I don't want to rush this. Look, she whipped the edges really nice too. Look at the nice colors in that. Look at the back of the border. Do you see how there's lots of different colors of black in there? Lots of color changes.
Did all that too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that nice? She must well, she printed on a piece of cotton. Very, very high tech. Very cool. I can barely get my printer to print like paper. Like it's like choking on paper. Yeah, with colors on it. Yeah. So cool. So cool. And of course, we're going to take real close-ups of all of these when we're at the exhibit and we're setting it all up and all that stuff. So it's going to be such a lot of fun. If you are still working on your Van Gogh exhibit and you're going, oh my God, am I too late? You're not too late, because you know what? I have not made any progress on mine either. We're going to work on this in a minute. I'm going to I just got a heart pain when I said that. That's how stressful this is getting. You have tons of time. And the other day, now who asked me? Was it Linda Ann? It might have been you. Maybe it was in the class. I feel like it was you. I'm not sure. Said like, how many days in advance do you need the piece? And my answer was like, 1 day, or if it arrives the same day, all good. As long as I can track it and I know that it's coming, I'll have the thing set up for it. Like there'll be a space and it'll be ready to hang. I don't worry about stuff like that. I have a theater degree. I'm used to doing things at the last second, right? That's all fine for me. It's not going to stress me out. Work on it, make it just the way you want it, send it, and plan to have it here by, I forget what date the show is. I forget what date the show is. I think the 28th or something, right? January 28th is Saturday this month. But you still have time is my point. We're going to look at that in just a minute. Oh, Jane, there you are. That's okay. Sean, Jess, good to see you. Thank you. They are all super lovely, especially the mermaid. Mine is still a work in progress. Do you want to show what you're working on before we get going?
Sure.
So you're working on the thing for New Canaan. So next Wednesday, I'm in New Canaan speaking. And remember that vase rug that I showed you that was like unique to that house? It was a non-commercial pattern that said the flower vase 1880. Totally different configuration, and the rug itself is is a hearth rug, tall and skinny, but tall, not horizontally, right? So very odd. They were definitely using a feed sack for the backing fabric because it's exactly that size. But we didn't want to do a pattern that size or that sort of dimension for beginners. So we made it into like a more square 12 by 10, and Jacob cropped up the main feature, which was the flower pot. And in the original rug, and I'll take good pictures of this at New Canaan, you are welcome to go. It is on the New Canaan Historical Society website. I'll be giving a talk on the history of hooked rugs, and then starting this class for people who want to sign up for this pattern. It comes with the kit, with all of the material in it, and a hook, and a hoop. So I'll be doing that next Wednesday. And yeah, the way that he redrew this flower pot, I think is perfect, because it was a giant flower pot with lots of sort of weeping willow, right, stuff coming out the sides. It was all spewy. But this is way more contained, compact, and way more manageable for beginners. I'm going to put it on, I think, linen, and cut it to a number 5. I think that's the best chance of success, so it's not too hard to pull through. And I'll bring a lot of that self-adhesive gauze to put around the bottom hoop if people's hoops are not tight enough. And I always bring a lot of real frames, rug hooking frames, to teaching events, so that if people are struggling with the hoop, they can try it on one of my frames, just to know what the difference is between having it hoop tight and having it frame tight. Hoop tight. And you know, there's a huge difference. You're hired to do all my transferring. I know Andrew, he's the best at transferring. Everything that he transfers, people go, is that like a machine? Do you machine like transfer? At the Alice Butler thing, everyone was like, do you do your patterns by machine? And I was like, well, sort of.
An organic machine.
Mm-hmm. I'm so thirsty because I'm so tired. All right, should we get going with the episode?
Shall we?
I'll get going first. So I'm going to start by, this is a live punch needle episode, right? And I often teach punch needle. And I'm sure I teach it differently than other people, because as with everything, I do it my way, and it's wrong. It's wrong, but it works.
It's like Sid Vicious is my way.
Yeah.
It's not.
That's right. This is
going to be a treat for you guys watching me try to figure this out.
Yeah, well,
he's going to be good at this.
He's going to be punching for the first time. He's never even picked up this punch needle before. He's never had it in his hand.
I don't know if that's true.
Well, it might have fallen on the floor.
Might have picked it up.
It might have fallen on the floor, and you put it back on the coffee table. But yeah, so what we're going to do is I'm going to punch for a minute first.
So
So
afraid.
you're so stressed, aren't you?
Oh
Well, I
my
told
God.
him if he really screws up, it gives me a teaching challenge, right? Because I've taught like hundreds of people punch needle, and why should you be the only turkey who
I'm
like
gonna
cannot do it?
I'm gonna fail in front of tens of people.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Well,
kill
there's
my
worse
spirit.
fates. Hmm. And if he does really well, then then that looks great
Huzzah.
too. So.
Then I'm gonna look like a hero.
That's right. So I'm going to start first punching my own Van Gogh piece a little bit to show you how I punch. We all punch differently. And I don't believe that there is a right and a wrong way to punch. I'm going to show you the way that
I'm
is
gonna prove that wrong today.
that is told most often in books. And you're going to have to decide for yourself whether you are a puncher, you want to contribute to the thread with your hacks and tricks and shortcuts and all that stuff, tips, right? You absolutely override mine if you find other ways. I'm going to show you the way that I have found it best to punch for myself. I'm punching today with a regular size punch needle as opposed to a fine, which is sometimes called a worsted weight, right? So there's two kinds of punch needles for beginners. This is an Oxford punch. These aren't the ones that I stock in ribbon candy hooking. I stock the worsted weight, which are the finer ones, and it's a different brand. But I love the Oxford punches. I love Amy Oxford. She's one of my buddies too. These punches, for absolute beginners, they come in only the two sizes, regular and fine. And if you're saying to yourself, what about all those numbers? There's way more than two. Well, there's not way more than two. There's only two kinds of punches, regular and fine. And the number refers to the height of the shaft, right? The height of the shaft dictates how far down your needle can go through the backing, and thus how far the loop, how tall the pile of the loop will be on the other side. So you can go 8, you can go to 13, 13 with heels, right? Those numbers refer to this dimension, the height of the shaft. There are only two kinds of needles, and this being the regular is the wider one. It means it has a wider channel here, which means you can get thicker wools through it. I can go up to bulky with this. There are some yarns and materials, wool strips that are too thick or too clunky or too nubby or too hairy to go through any punch needle. So let me show you what I mean by that as I get started on my Van Gogh, and you finish that guy up. So, and I might need you to go around to the other side of the table in a minute and do the seasick camera stuff.
Oh,
as
no.
it shows up, maybe. So I'm going to be working on my Van Gogh, and I'm going to work on it just for a minute to show you.
Don't clunk me in the skull with it.
I won't. I'm going to show you what I'm doing. So maybe you go around that end when you have time. And we're going to come real
means
close.
right now.
Yeah, it does. I'm like going
That
like
means
this.
currently.
I'm going to show you what I do. And I'm going to show you, hang on for 1 second. I'm going to use this, this is the yarn that I sell. This is a 3-ply, 100% wool Briggs & Little. I sell 2-ply and 3-ply. The 2-ply goes through the worsted weight, great, but only the 3-ply will go through the regular sized punch needle, right? This 3-ply Briggs & Little is a little too thick to go through the worsted reliably. It snags, it pulls, it frustrates, it backfires, right? So that won't work, but for a regular size needle, it will. I just want to show you before I sit down and start punching. Some of the materials I really like. Can you grab that bag? I should have the one with those like polka dotty things in there. For example, this one is a lovely, a very high twist yarn, right? Very soft, a bit of like a roving feel to it. This won't go through the needle easily, right? It keeps getting snagged because it's unreliable. There are some thick nubby parts and there's some thinner parts. It's very sort of uneven. It has that nice twist, which is usually a plus, but this is too sort of unreliable, inconsistent of a yarn type to go through the needle. So I'm up against that, and then I'm up against, I don't know if you watched the video that we put out, but this yarn, I don't know whose it is. I got it at big store in Northampton. Come on. I know somebody will write it down. It's like the biggest yarn store in the country. But I got it in their sale room, and it's a lovely thin chain-stitched yarn, right, machine chained. But you can see at intervals, I'm trying to bring this into focus, there are these little clunkers. They're like weird little pom-poms. I don't know why that's not coming into focus. But this will not go through the punch needle. So I have tried it, and it got stuck every time for obvious reasons, right? So you have to be thoughtful when you're doing your punch. the more even and regular your yarn is, the less trouble you're going to have. The two main reasons why your punch is not working is, number one, the yarn is not going through the needle well for one of those reasons, or maybe it's stuck in your armpit. You're like on the couch and you got your Doritos and it got stuck somewhere weird and it's pulling a little bit. If it's pulling at all, it's not going to go through the needle and it's not going to make the loops. So pulling is the number one reason. We'll talk about the main reasons while I'm punching, right? Let's do it that way. So let me catch up for once. Webs, thank you, Judy. It's absolutely Webs. I love that store. Carol says, I have not loved punch needle, so I'm hoping to be inspired. It's not for everybody, but it works great, and the speed works great. So let's see what we can do, if I can come up with some tips for you that you maybe go back to it and give it another shot. Sharon says, I've contacted Oxford and asked them if they would produce a needle with a slightly finer needle. That would be great, wouldn't it? So you would mean something between, for example, a Russian punch needle, like an ultra punch, and the fine needle. There is a world between those two, but also remember, Sharon, that even with the miniature punch needles, which are also called Russian punch needles, they do come in different sizes. And some of them are a little bit on the larger size. Some of them you can put like a whole piece of, for example, DMC floss through it instead of having to separate the pieces, or use the Valdani, which is much thinner. But there still is a big gap between the largest of the Russian punch and the small traditional punch, which is the fine. So that would be interesting. Let me know if you get an answer there. And Andrea says, I would love to have the Oxford Special Edition Rainbow Needle, the Peacock. I have that one. It's very good. Look on like the Rug Cooking Buy and Sell. I'm not a fan of that page at all. I'm going to say it out loud. But sometimes one pops up there. Or put the word out. You can put it out in our group too, Rug Cooking and Punch Needle Club, because it is the largest group. And somebody might say, well, I bought the whole set of Peacocks, but I find I don't use them, or I don't use these 5, and you never know, right? You could put out an ISO in search of with Chiro yarn. Oh, okay. I see, Sharon. Let me know what comes up from that query. That's interesting. Paula, thank you. I've been loving my hair too. It's I cut quite a bit of it off the other day. But yeah, it's fading. I'm less of a unicorn than I was a month ago. Yep. Okay, so let's get going on this. So Jacob, well, first I'm gonna maybe come in as close as you can to me with the camera. And I'm gonna pretend that you are an absolute beginner, even if you are not, because maybe you are doing something a little bit. Oh, you want to switch the thing the other way?
No, I can see fine.
Okay, so come down to my hand. Super cross-eyed right there, and I'm putting it upside down. So I've got my thread, and I know it's going to fit, and I'm running it up the channel like this, right? And then I'm sticking it through the hole like this. So that sometimes is confusing enough right there. I'm running it through the channel. Right, and the end comes out the tip, right, not the other way around, and I'm putting it up, right, the sort of shank, the shaft of the needle, which is a hollow, and then it goes down that way. So when I look at the top of the needle, when I'm holding it this way, it's shooting out the top like a little spray, right? That's the correct way, and it doesn't have to be sticking out a ton. It can be sticking out just like that. Now I am on one of these.
I'm gonna find myself. Yeah.
I'm on one of these Amy Oxford. I'm going to do it like this. I've got it tipped up against my boobs. So that is one way. I just need it away from the table, right?
I hate this so bad.
I know. It is a bit seasicky. Oh, whoa!
I just can't. There's no.
Here,
line.
you look
no,
at
I
it
can't
here.
do it like this.
You look at it here. Just for a minute. Just for a minute. Mm-hmm. Sorry, we're getting there. So this is my working side. You can put it back on the thing. Just make sure.
No, I got it.
This is my working side, and this is the correct side. Even though sometimes people prefer their working side, right? With punch needle, you are working in reverse. Your pattern has to be drawn in reverse. You are working the back of it. I am on this Amy Oxford frame, right? She sells these on her site. They have combs on them. They come in different sizes. You can punch right down into the table this way. I'll try that first. I haven't actually done that. I normally balance it on my body or on the edge of the couch. So when I'm doing punch needle, I'm going to come to you upside down. I'm going to tip it a little bit because I just can't resist. I'm coming in with my tip. Are you right in there? Mm-hmm. and I go right down to the shaft, as far as it'll go. That dictates the height of the loop on the other side. If I am not consistent with putting it down all the way each time, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, but if I'm not consistent with going right down to the shaft every time, then I will get different heights of loops on the other side. And I don't want that. I want, for the most part, even loops, right? If I'm doing things that are uneven, that have that kind of height variety, I want to do that on purpose. I don't want to do that by accident because my technique is bad. So what I do when I punch is, can you see that I've got the needle angled? For me, this is how I work. I always work with the needle tipped sideways. This is just, for me, the best and fastest way. Books will say, hold the needle like this and pull it back towards you. And yeah, that works too, but I prefer the sideways job, right? And I'm getting very, very close. Where's the scissors gone? Hang on, scissors, right there, right next to you.
Oh, geez.
So I'm getting too close, right? Because you need to leave like a little breathing room. I'm going to pull up on this and start again. So let's look one more time. The main things that can happen, can you put the camera over here next to the KFC bag? You see how I accidentally put the scissors down on the yarn? This is what I was talking about. If your yarn is stuck, it's not going to punch well, right? So anything that's weighting it down or that's trapping it is going to cause a really big problem. When I drag the tip of my needle to find the next place I want to punch, I'm not lifting up. That's number 2. Those are the top 2. Solid gold hits number 1 and 2. Your yarn is stuck in your armpit or in the couch cushion, and it's snagging, and it's not free to sort of unravel and work. That's number 1 reason why your punch needle hoops are not working and staying. The other reason is you are lifting up your needle in between loops. If I lift it up and like this, it's not going to work. It's going to be a problem. While I lift it up to talk to you or I look over my shoulder to reach for my coffee cup, it's a problem. You do not want to lift up your needle at all. You want to drag it across the surface. And again, you can do it the correct way. I like it this way. I like it sideways better. And all the way down to the shaft every time. But I do not lift up the tip of that needle at all, ever. And yeah, and you don't want to be right up against the row behind it. I'm going to show you my other side. I'm always packing with punch needle. It's something I need to be a bit more thoughtful of, but there is a little bit of breathing room. I do have different sizes. I'm going to cut this for the moment. I do have different sizes and weights of yarn in this piece. You can see for the most part, the piece is coming out great for someone who punches sideways. Now, maybe you're noticing that nubby sort of pom-pom yarn that I showed you that I said doesn't go through the punch needle. That's because I flipped this piece over to its other side and I hooked that yarn because I wanted that yarn to be present, but I couldn't punch with it. So this is the part of the composition where the chair will be, and you can see I'm punching around in some other areas. As I punch, and Jacob's going to give this a shot so I can watch and sort of, what's the word?
Laugh.
No, like fine tune. Where there's like larger loops or things are popped up, you see tails, you can cut them after and pull them off. You can fine tune the surface of it if you want to. I like a good nubby surface. In terms of punching, that's it, baby. I mean, that's it. Like, that's the whole story. You're putting the needle in. You want to go right down to the shaft every time. I'm working on monk's cloth. I prefer punching into rug warp, and that's what we've got Jacob's pattern on. So do I need to go into every single hole? No. And this is a tricky thing if you haven't punched or hooked before, especially. You don't have to go into every hole, but it is up to you, to your eye, and this is something that improves with experience. Is my face in the camera?
Oh, nope.
This is something that improves with experience. You do get a feel for how close you want to go to the loop before it, but it takes a little bit of practice and experience. Sometimes you find that your loops are a little bit too far apart, and maybe you want to pull a little bit out, get them closer together because you have too many what's called holidays. And if that's the case, you can fill them in later, either with a punch or a hook, right? You don't have to pull your whole piece out if you feel like all your loops are too far spaced. You can go in later with your punch and fill it in and make it work, right? Cluster them a little bit tighter. If they're too close together in general, then you are packing. And packing can be tough too because it creates a surface with too many loops for the backing material really to support comfortably. When you pack, you can sometimes block, which means ironing it at the end with steam, and it mellows a little bit, it relaxes a little bit. Sometimes if it's extreme packing and you see your pieces buckling and that it's really going to be a problem, it's like cupping or buckling, then you might want to pull out sections and rework them. But it will take time for you to figure out what is the right balance between leaving it too loose with a lot of holidays, too loose Lautrec, or making it too tight and having it be packed. You have to figure that out, and it will differ from project to project because your backing material might be different and your yarn is different. So I'm using like probably 10 different kinds of yarn in this piece. They're different widths. I make a different decision every time I put a different yarn through how close I want the loops together. So it's a moving target, but it is something that you can figure out with your eye. If you're punching and you look at it and you say, yeah, it looks good, I'm happy with this, then you're good, right? Then you're good. And next time you start a project, maybe you're not using monk's cloth or maybe you're using a different monk's cloth. It feels different. There's different rules. You have to rethink it. So it is a little bit of thinking on your feet, but you have to get used to trusting yourself and having confidence when you get started. Just knowing that you're going to figure it out sooner rather than later, and it's going to work. Is it going to work, Jacob?
I'm going to stink.
Okay. All right. So do you have that pointed toward us? Oh, no, my water. Okay. Well, yeah. It's wet.
Do you want to reset all this?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna very quickly.
Very quickly. Okay, you're leaving me to waffle. I'm in a color plan without him. He's taking a very small break.
Newbie here.
Am I in the frame? Am I in the frame?
I figured we would spin it back around.
No, but make sure I'm in it while you take your sanity break for a second. Yeah. He's a little nervous.
Hilarious.
Sorry. Oh man. Okay. I'm in it, right?
Oh, you're in it to win it, girl.
Okay. So I'm gonna put while he takes
don't go like this.
1 minute break. Okay. I'm gonna get his piece set up for him, and I'm gonna start color planning. We get rid of the KFC bag, right? Because that's just making me hungry. It's not doing. They better pay me if I'm going to be showing that bag anymore. So let me get him color planned. This is a different one of the Amy Oxford frames. So I'm going to stretch the piece that is ready for him on there. This piece, now this is one of the Alice Butler designs. And I think this is our favorite. We both have a favorite design with this. We like all of them, and he loves that flowering peach tree. But I think our joint absolute all-time favorite of the Alice Butlers is this one called Brownian Movement. So I want to remind you what that's all about because it's a cool pattern with a cool story behind it. For those of you who are absolute beginners, and I hope you can see me because I am pretty far away from you right now, this has been transferred with, and I traced this one. That's why it's not as good because he is definitely better at tracing than I am. I did this morning to get us all set. It's traced with fiber tape, right? So I have videos of transferring with this method, the sticky, sort of tacky fiber tape that comes from Home Depot. It's for supporting cracks on walls of old houses, right? It's tacky on one side. I'm peeling this off because we have already transferred it with a Sharpie marker. And it looks like this on rug warp. This piece is called Brownian Movement, and I'm going to put it on this frame just right, and then I'm going to get behind the camera a little bit. Let me make sure this is right. I'm going to stretch it like a drum. Can you just check me that I'm right in the camera there? Stretching it like a drum, both ways. And I just wanted to talk about Brownian Movement too because the pattern is awesome. All right, so that's pretty tight. Feels good. The tighter, the better, right? It's going to be easier to punch. The reason I prefer to punch into rug warp is, did you notice while I was punching my Van Gogh piece with the monk's cloth, which is fine, and it works great, it stretches a lot. It's 100% cotton. It becomes slack pretty fast, right? The cotton takes a real beating. The rug warp, to me, has a lot more integrity, and it's just a lot easier to punch. I at first was teaching classes in punch with monk's cloth, and I felt like as soon as I switched to rug warp, the success rate of people not losing their minds and getting frustrated went from like 70% pretty good to like 100. So I personally feel much better about rug warp, and I stock rug warp. And if you're having trouble finding it at Ribbon Candy Hooking, or you want a pattern on it, just send me a note. Sometimes it goes out of stock, but I recently got a bolt like this week. Also, if you ever want patterns, just a side note, that are Ribbon Candy Hooking patterns and you plan to punch them, make sure you make a note of that, because the pattern needs to be reversed if you want it to look the same way. I forgot to reverse this one, so it's going to come out in reverse. Uh-oh.
I didn't draw it.
Did I do that? No, I did. That was stupid. So remember, can you check and see if this is on the...
Beautiful.
Good. So Brownian movement, right? If you remember from the Alice Butler talks, and it's hard to define because it's a scientific term, and I am not a scientist, as you know. What Brownian movement is a random pattern that is made by molecules, right? And therefore also by machines, but not by people. You can't make a random pattern. But what made this random pattern was Alice Butler's refrigerator, when she pulled it away from the wall on the linoleum floor, and it had been there for years and years, to either clean behind it or replace it or something like that. This was the pattern on the linoleum floor, because over the years, the refrigerator being on, humming away, vibrating away, had walked a little bit, a lot. So it created this exact pattern on the linoleum, and the son, Vic, captured it in a sketch, and he drew it exactly the way that it looked on the floor. So this is called Brownian movement, because it is the act of the refrigerator having walked and created this random pattern. So it's just a very cool story, and as you can see, it makes a very cool pattern. Why is this a good pattern to punch, especially for the first time? Because it's very line-driven and geometric, right? It's not super organic and flowy. You're not doing lots of diagonals and making decisions on curves that are important. You're just kind of going straight lines, and it's so abstract in the sort of Mondrian style that, like, if it's a little screwed up, it ain't going to matter, is it? I mean, not with this pattern. You ready to go? So I got him, so what, we didn't color plan because you didn't take a long enough break. So let me come behind there. Why don't you come, I'm going to get behind the camera. Why don't you go to some of that yarn and tell me, you decide which ones you want to use. And I'll catch up on comments and stuff. So I'm with you over here again. Got to make this higher for someone who's the size of Gulliver.
Freak?
No. All right.
Am I in frame?
Nope. So let's see what you're thinking for.
Nope.
For colors. Because, wait a minute, let me pull out the cover of the Alice Butler book, and you'll see what the original is. But we don't want to play that game, right? We're going to go with our own colors. So that's the cover of the book. I'll show you. Oh, it's cropped a little bit. Let me show you the whole one. Those are, remember her pastels with the black? Do something totally different. Now for something completely different. Don't stress. These are your friends. It's okay. It's okay.
Totally cool.
I'm looking. Okay, here's the.
Who's stressed?
That's the full size, right? So you can see. And like I said, you do whatever colors you want. And they don't have to be like definitive. I might veto them. Like, I don't like that purple at all. All right.
Whatever colors you want.
Oh, Barbara, good to see you. Okay, Barbara said, okay, wait a minute. I missed something on beeswax. So, oh, Dave, good to see you, Dave. Marion, great to see you in Virginia. I'm so happy that you're there. Michelle, great to see you. Barbara, great to see you. Hold on just a second. I love how resourceful everyone in this group is. Me too. I love the fact that everyone shares instead of hoards secret. Yeah, you can dig into those. It's going to be very small amounts of each one, but you can dig into those. Absolutely. I have one that I really like that I'm going to put forward.
I have an idea, but I can't remember the name of the painting that I'm
describe it.
of.
Maybe I'll get it.
It looks just like that, but the squares are like yellow, red, blue,
yeah,
white,
that's
and black.
Mondrian. That's Mondrian when he breaks it up like that. I don't like primary colors though. We should have discussed this first and thought about this off camera. You know what? Can I? I'm going to catch up.
Pick them?
Yeah, let me pick the first one anyway.
Sure.
Knock knock. Who's there? Control freak. No, you say control freak who? Just kidding. Okay, so what about this color?
I think it's ugly.
Seriously? What about this one?
Those ones?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, it's a nice mix.
Surely.
And, oh, what about this? I mean, these are all like color changing ones. Yeah, let's just, oh, what about this? Maybe this
You
is a
didn't
little
like
bit
that
pink.
other purple?
Well, no, I guess I do. How about this? Let's start with this. What about this? Do you like that at all?
I do, yeah.
Okay, let's start with that then, because that's a nicey. All right, I'm gonna like put those two there, because those are my favorites. There's also this one, not that we want to go too like blue. Let me just catch up, because someone was saying something about beeswax, so you have like a minute of reprieve. I'm gonna come
Is that
back
what
to you
you're
here.
calling it?
Yeah, I'm calling it reprieve. So, hang on a second, sorry. You have a coffee. Let me see. So, where's the beeswax? So Karen says, how about using beeswax? Okay. Andrea says, how about using beeswax? Okay. Let me see. Okay, so Karen says, if your punch needle is sticking, run soap over the surface before you start. Interesting. Like the kind you get at a hotel. Like the little bars of soap, not the liquid soap, the little bars of soap. Ooh, interesting. Like the kind you get at a hotel, your punch needle will go right through smoothly. So you're rubbing like a little bar of soap onto the surface of the fabric, not the needle, right? Interesting. Now I get where this thread is going. And Andrea said, how about using beeswax? And Karen says, I haven't tried the beeswax. Okay, interesting. I don't have anything to contribute to that conversation. I don't have a situation with the punch needle sticking. I haven't encountered that. But I can see how that would be a good solution. And then Barbara says, I'm using the linen I got from you with my punch needle and it works great. You know, a lot of people are very happy using linen for punch needle. A lot of people do, in burlap and any other backing. It is up to you. I stock Michelle Micarelli's linen, right? Because she's local and she's my buddy. So I stock her linen. And yeah, you can use it to punch. For me, it's not super tight, and I often punch with my worsted needle, which is the thinner one, and I just want it to be in a tighter backing. That's a personal choice. But a lot of people punch with linen, and it works. Barbara, do you ever have a nightmare where the tip of the needle goes through the burlap? Because the burlap is a little more brittle, right? It's a little more dry and brittle. Do you ever have that situation where it actually punches a hole through the backing? And this can happen also with monk's cloth, right? Or with any backing. If someone, particularly in like a beginner class situation, is really panicking, I have seen the needle go right through and break threads. I always feel like it would be more likely with linen, but then I hear so many other people are punching with linen and they're very happy with it. So I'm curious about what all of your thoughts are on that subject. And Marion says, question, how do you end a color and start a new one? I don't know what to do with the tails. So when I was doing the Van Gogh, I was pressing it down with my finger. I'll do it with Jacob's. You jerk. He was being a clown for a second. I was trying to get him on.
That's how the most experienced punchers punch.
I'll show you with him. I just pull it a little bit and I hold it down with my finger so it doesn't pull the last loop. Clip it, and then, Jacob, can you put the Van Gogh on the table for a second? Mm-hmm. Let me show you real fast what I do with that. I'm going to bring you right here. Let me do that right now and answer that question. If we put it right here. Okay, so if I'm punching, let's see. I'm going to punch right here. Yeah. Okay, so you got this one threaded. Good job. You got it threaded. All right. That was not patronizing. So I think I'm over here.
Wasn't it?
Well, it was by accident. So I'm punching. I'm punching right here, right? And let's say hold the frame. Hold the frame.
Oh shit.
That's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Don't say a bad word. So I'm pulling it up like this with my finger, right? You can see I'm holding it down because I don't want that last loop to kind of crap out. I want it to stay put. Yep, I did it. And I'm cutting it like this. Now, can you hold the whole thing up for 1 second? So all of these tails, right, Marion, all of those tails sticking up, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come to the other side, the right side, maybe flip it over. And I'm going to pull all those tails through with my hook, right? So all those little tails that you see sticking up, I'm going to take my rug hook or a crochet hook. I'm going to go into where those tails are. I'm going to pull them to the right side, and then I'm going to clip them even with the surface of the piece, right? The sort of the surface of the rest of the loops. I'm going to cut it even with those. And I do that all at once. Some people do it as they go, so it doesn't turn into an overwhelming task, but I do it at the end. I'm okay with an overwhelming task. Okay, all set. And Andrea says, Marion, do you usually
I'm so not.
you use? Okay, so you're telling about pushing the tails through. Yeah, you could use a pair of scissors to do that too. That would also work. Okay, a little bar of soap. Okay, Karen. Yep, not the liquid soap. The little waxy bars of soap, especially if you are using linen. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. That must be a linen thing. See, I'm learning, and this is great because I can pass this on every time my mouth opens in a class. Sharon says you might have a burr on the needle tip that is making it stick. Interesting. A burr on the needle tip. Okay. See, you are all much better than I am. I have not encountered a burr, and I have not encountered the stickiness
You guys want a job?
Exactly.
How good
Krista
are you
says,
on
I
camera?
agree about the burr. Okay, you are doing some good sharing here. Let me see. Let me learn too. The linen is strong. The burlap broke easily, and it wasn't sturdy. Okay, Barbara, I got that from Joanne's. Okay, yep. Linen. Okay, and I've had it checked. No burrs. Okay, this is curious. You know, Karen, can you take a close up of the needle, or when you're having this problem? Can you try to document it, because it might be something that we can look at in our Facebook group and really get a good handle on. Because the thing is, when people are starting up with something like punch needle, even if you are an experienced hooker, and you start to have these chain pulls, right? These like things that set you back, and you can't figure out what's going wrong. Sometimes that is enough, depending on your mindset. Sometimes that's enough to make you go, forget it. I am all set, never again. And you don't want to go that far with that negative energy, and you want to figure out, when you're in the right mindset, what's going wrong. So it's great to have these conversations and say, this might be it, that might be it, because there's only so many things it can be. If you are trying to do punch, don't you dare start with, are you getting a head start? He's getting a head start. All right.
It's
He's
not
trying
going
to
to be
put in a few
embarrassing
loops
enough
without
if you
you seeing
practice.
them. That's right. All right. Oh, you learned about the soap thing at the biennial. That is smart. Do you wash it out at the end of punching or leave it as is? Crystal, I was wondering the same thing, so I'm waiting for that one too. If you are having a problem with punch needle, because with rug hooking it's much less. You're pulling up loops with your hook. It's pretty straightforward. With punch, I named the two most common things that could be happening that would be playing you in such a way that the loops are not staying, and super frustrating. And if you get into that mindset of, oh, it's me, like it's me, I screw everything up, it's me. It's not you. It's a mechanical problem. It's a technical problem. We need to figure out what the problem is, because the problem is not you. It is something that the way you're holding the hook, it's the yarn going through it. It's something, but it's not you. That makes no sense, does it? Like when you say it out loud. So don't get into that mindset where you're like, oh, it's just me screwing up another thing. It's not. We are almost at the end, so we better get going. Leave it as is, Karen says. Okay, I'm going to come over here.
Please don't.
Please
no.
You're punching. You started punching without us.
I did.
Oh, you're going to have to do Huckleberry Hound sound now.
What's? No, I can't. Please, it's too much pressure. My hands are so shaky.
All right, so your hands are shaky. You're doing really, really. Don't go so fast. Don't go so fast.
Just being a goof.
So he's holding it sideways, right? I'm going to come a little bit closer. Look at what he did. He's holding it sideways. I'm creeping closer. I'm a little bit.
Oh, I feel it. Believe me.
It's going real good. It's going real good. All the way to, are you holding it sideways because I was showing it that way?
It's just how it feels the most
exactly.
comfortable to me.
I feel the same way. When you're holding it like with the shaft opening on the underside of the needle, don't lift up too high.
I just did too.
You did. Well, you were listening at least. Yeah, so now pull it back. Right, there you go. That's it. What was I saying? When you're holding it sideways, I hold it like quarter past the hour, quarter of the hour. I don't hold it like halfway down. It's just a personal preference. But, yeah.
I personally prefer doing the pattern, making the patterns
Well,
than
you might end up loving this, right? This
punching
is
it.
like a
It is,
precursor
you know
to
what?
tufting.
Aside from being just a clown, it is much easier than I thought it would be.
Okay.
And
Can you pause for 1
It's
second?
not total hell like I totally thought it
No,
would be.
it's definitely not total hell. It's fun hobby times. Let's look at the correct side and see how the loops look. Can we?
Let's.
They look great. Look at that. Wait, I'm trying to come in with the camera too.
Damn, I'm good.
Damn, you are good. That is actually fantastic.
I am Deanna David now.
That is. You're taking over everything. I'm going to take a vacation. That is amazingly good. Can you see that? And this is rug warp again. So this is the correct side. This one loop here, right, that's a little low, but when one of them's low, here, pull it over all the way. You can kind of, do you see? No, you don't even need to.
What do you mean?
Well,
No.
there was one loop that kind of got lost. Sorry.
I feel like over here, that's kind of the case. Like I went up higher.
That's okay. Yeah. This is an abstract design. But did you see on everybody watching live in the middle there, I'm going to put you back over here. There was a little loop that was lower than the others, and there was only one. It was only one loop that was different. So one of these kids is not like the others. I just pulled the loop with my fingernails, pulled it up, and it evened out the two loops around it, and it was absolutely perfect. So, yep. And with that frame, you're right on the table there. You're not balancing it on your boobs. So
I very well could be.
It's working. I always wonder if these frames are tall enough, but I should know. It's an Amy Oxford project. It's working. Sorry.
That's really good. You got a genuine laugh out of me.
It was off camera, though. You look so happy when you laugh, too. It's coming out really good.
How was it off camera? I was looking right into it.
No, I had a close-up on your hand.
Oh.
Yeah, I had it trained right on your hand.
Good.
Linda N says, you're going to fly right through that rug, Jacob, once you get going. You're a natural. I have to say, I think he is a natural.
Golly.
And Sharon says, I wish I had the skills to freehand a pattern. Sharon, you have the skills to freehand a pattern. What are you talking about? You have the skills. I'm going to come over there with him. Sharon, just put rug warp if you're punching, right? Rug warp, monk's cloth, linen. Let's say not burlap, right? Let's say not burlap, because I agree with Karen. Burlap is a stretch. We're gonna be doing our rug tufting first on burlap, to try burlap first, because a lot of people are switching. Once we get into the rug tufting, we've got to get through this month first, because it's like heavy duty. I can't believe how fast you're going with this.
I know. I'm actually quite shocked. Look at me now,
Mom. You're lifting the needle up a little bit.
Okay.
The needle. Yeah, a little bit. Just drag it across. Like you want to feel the tip of the needle scrape across and find the next hole that you mean to put it in. It doesn't have to be the next hole, just the next hole that you mean to go into. But I mean, honestly, Jacob has never done this before, like ever, and I feel like this is going extraordinarily well. That came out. Because it got stuck, right? You got it stuck. That was like one of the top two.
So what do I do now?
So you just pull out one and then go back into that hole. Now you see how you've kind of like abused those two holes because you pulled out of those two and you already...
Quite.
So maybe go into one
over
next
with
to it.
The needle, right?
Exactly. Scooch it over. Yep. That's going to come out super, super, super great. We're going to have to do a part 2 and see how these things evolve. So
Why? How much time are we at?
It's time. We're over.
It's
over.
time.
Yeah, we fooled around so long that, like, yeah.
Oh, we fooled around? We're like
we
little
fooled around.
middle schoolers,
Yep,
ladies and
like little
gentlemen?
middle schoolers. All right. You did really good, though. So Michelle says, when you punch when you punch, do you always have to go in straight lines? No, you don't, Michelle. You can go in any direction you want. Wool Diva says, good job, Jacob. Now you're not a virgin anymore.
Thank goodness.
That's off the table. No, you definitely don't have to go in straight lines. You go however you want to go.
Why is this doing this?
And it's going to work. Just be careful about lifting up your needle. And see, he's struggling with the
And don't sell yourself short either.
Don't sell yourself short. That's always a good one. And he's struggling with the yarn because you can see the yarn might want to not. Just make sure you got tons.
I don't even think it's the yarn. It's like, it's because I was so rough with the blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
well,
I can't
it gets
think
a little
right
bit
now.
stuck, and then like he's pulling it back through so that it's right even with the tip again, right? You don't want a lot of slack. You don't want a loop on the wrong side. You don't want to play that game because it has potential to pull out the loops on the front. So just try to keep it. If you do lift up the needle by accident, like he just did, pull it right back to the surface and just keep going, right? In the same vein. If you're not sure of yourself, you don't trust yourself, put your finger down on the yarn, pull the needle up a little bit, clip it, and then start again. So I don't think the questions come up yet. What if I want to do a completely different area? Well, clip where you are, or if you want to get up and go to the bathroom or whatever, you want to take a break, you want to pick it up next month, next year, clip and just leave it, right? And come back to it at any point in any place. If you get tired of doing the blue bit, then cut it, move on, do the pink bit, do the purple bit, do a different bit. You don't have to do the blue bit. You don't have to complete that part just because the blue is out, right? That doesn't make any sense either. You do what you feel like doing. The order that you complete either rug hooking or punch needle in has no bearing on the way that the piece comes out. There's not going to be any pull or directional sort of problem with the fabric itself if you do the corners first or the border first, or you go from one part to the next. It just doesn't work like that. You fill in whatever part when you feel like it, just like a coloring book. No repercussions, right, to the way the finished piece will look. Dave says, Jacob, you are rocking the punch. He likes
Like
that.
it's spiked. Wordplay, baby.
Exactly.
Get
I'm
us
sure
on
Dave appreciates
Patreon.
that sentiment. Sharon says, I leave. Okay, so Marion says, if I draw my own pattern on the cloth, how many inches should I leave for border? Well, so Marion, the answer to that is what kind of a frame are you putting it on? Are you going to put it on like a hoop, or are you going to put it on your rug hooking frame? With punch needle, and this is another answer that kind of flies in the face of the establishment, I do not like to move my punch needle pieces on a combed frame, on a frame with vicious combs. I don't. I know that it is possible to do it and to pull down on it in the opposite direction of the combs and lift it off and up and away without damaging the piece. But for me, I always pull out loops. 100%. Murphy is standing over my shoulder laughing. And every time. So that's why I have so many of these Amy Oxford frames. And that's why I made this Alice Butler piece the size that it is, so we don't have to move it on the frame. Depending on what frame you're using, I would say I'm always thinking about having enough of a border that it will wrap around my frame without wasting too much backing. So I like to have a minimum 4-inch border always. On this one, I might have put a little bit of a bigger border because I knew we were wrapping it around this frame, and I didn't want Jacob on his first try to be too close to the wooden edges with the metal tip of the punch. So I'm just thinking about it practically. I actually measured my backing material by putting the frame down on top of it this morning and then cutting the material because I wanted to be sure that it could wrap and that there was no chance that his needle was going to touch the edge of the frame. So I just think practically when I'm putting a design onto fabric, I just think about the size of the frame and the size the pattern needs to be to give me the least grief and aggravation with moving that pattern around on the frame. Now, some people will, yes, put cellophane down over the combs in certain parts to protect the loops and then move the cellophane. There's lots of things that you can do to save yourself grief and aggravation. But if you have a big enough frame, or you're on a floor frame or a teddy can frame, and you can just put the whole thing on there, not move it at all, because of the because of the nature of punch, then do that. You know, think about how to make it as easy as possible for yourself, because punch, in my opinion, is subjective, but is a bit trickier than hooking because of the things that can go wrong. Why are you making that noise? What's going on? I hear clunk, clunk. Something wrong? No?
No, I think I was just hitting the
What
table.
a guilty face. No, you're just hitting the table. Okay.
You're projecting.
All right, so that's what I do. Sharon says I leave 4 inches, Marion. Yep, I would absolutely. I leave 4 inches with hooking stuff. With punching, I only leave more if I'm worried about, the combs. And Linda Ann says, now that you are started, you can do a second show and just pick up, right? Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea. We can make some progress when there's some free time. And then, Jacob, it might be helpful if then you continued on with this. We tackled it a little bit more in depth. And if you said, like, what problems you're encountering, are you encountering any problems thus far?
None that I know how to articulate.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, he's making great speed, so I think things are going real well. Sharon says, also make sure that you zigzag or tape your edges. That's a good one, Sharon. Absolutely. So what I did with this one here is I zigzagged it in the machine this morning, right? Like just a number 4 zigzag stitch right along the edges so it doesn't unravel. Because it wants to unravel. You know it wants to unravel. Murphy's like, how about a little fun with the edges, right? How about you lose a few inches fast without even realizing it? Yeah, you can tape your edges too. And, Bob is on in Scotland, catching loops. That's it. Bob, if you didn't see the beginning, Jacob is punching for his first time, and he's doing I think, remarkably well. I will hold it up one more time before the end of the show. I'm just making sure I caught all of the details. I second the second show. Okay. Bob says, oh, yes, Jacob has to finish that one.
Indeed.
Are you enjoying it, though?
Thoroughly, actually.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, Marion, you can masking tape the edge. That's great.
My hands are sore.
Are they sore already?
Yeah, a little bit.
You know, you're probably holding your hand really...
Oh, I'm like...
I know. I mean, it's not a typical thing to have to learn how to do something live with 50 people watching you from all over the world. Sorry, I just made it worse, didn't I? But he's doing a great job. Marion, you could definitely do masking tape. You could even do, if your masking tape is thin, like one on each side, right? Like one on each side, taped to each other on the edges. And if you see your masking tapes coming off, or duct tape, or whatever you have, if you see your masking tapes coming off, you know, just replace it, because it will want to unravel. And you saw Jacob just turned the orientation of the frame. That's so you get a better angle, right? If you're not working on a floor frame, there you go. You can keep turning it to get that better angle. Every time you do that, your edges do want to play you up. So just be careful that you've secured the edges.
Throw caution to the wind. That's what
That's
Jacob
your tip
says.
for the day?
That's my tip for the day.
Oh, man. Okay, so Bob says, I will watch this again, Deanna. Well done, Jacob. Love it, bro. He
Thank
loves
you.
it. I love hand punching more than machine.
Peace and love. Oh,
Peace
wait.
and love.
That's, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay. You can do your peace and love. That's a nice sentiment. And I think we should log off because it's 1:08. Before we log off, show us the correct side.
Please.
One more time.
No.
No, it's going to be perfect.
Uh,
And let's bring it in close up. Bring it right up here. Yeah, here. Oh, that's looking good. That is looking good. That's the tip coming right through there. Are you sweating?
no, my eyes are just watering from staring at it. I need my glasses.
That really looks good. I do love the rug warp. All right, so I'm going to come over there and we're going to, well, no, I'm going to come back over here. Jacob, you want to say goodbye, and then I'm going to turn the camera toward me and log off?
Goodbye, guys. Thanks for all the support. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was a lot of nice support, wasn't it? This is such a nice community. It is a bit nerve-wracking, and especially under these conditions, right?
Throw snakes at me as well.
Yeah,
My first
snakes
time
on a plane. Snakes on a plane, just a few snakes
Close one
over
of your
your leg.
eyes, spin around in a circle.
Well, that was fun. I really enjoyed that a ton. And I'm actually really, really happy because he's doing great. And honestly, never has he done this before. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, this isn't a lie.
And yeah, and let's have a second show. And you can think of what your tips are, because a bunch of stuff came up that I've never heard of before. So I'm learning too. Thank you. We're all learning from each other, right? Which is like the best way to learn in a group of friends. And isn't it funny how we're all so used to talking on the subject that when someone asks a super specific question, we know exactly how to answer it.
Use soap from a hotel.
Exactly. I mean, it's so
so
specific. We know
yeah.
each other so well at this point. I'm so happy for our community, and I love everybody who logs on so much. I'm so happy that we can be here together like this and have fun like this. So Helen says, hi, newbie from Portland, Oregon. I love the show. Can you say the name of the tracing material from Home Depot? Absolutely. I will say that. Bob, good night. It is getting late over there. I don't blame you for logging off in Scotland. Helen, my mom's name too. The material is called, so this is it on the wall behind me too. It is called Fiba tape. It's Fiba, like fiber, but Fiba tape, Tape. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. Sometimes I go to Home Depot, and depending on the fool that you have to deal with, right? Sometimes they know what you're talking about, sometimes they don't. Some people will want to say it's right here, and they show you a product that's like this wide. That's not it. It's this, right? So it's like a yard long, like wrapping paper, right? And it's tacky on one side, not annoyingly sticky, but tacky. And it's something like, let's say it's like 25 yards for about, I think like $23, $25, right? So it averages out, in my mind, to less than $1 a yard. And that's a lot of fiber tape, right? Because you only need enough to transfer over your pattern. And you're literally, and I have a video on this, so it's good to watch. I have a couple videos on this. You're literally putting the fiber tape, the sticky side, down on your drawing or on your photocopy or on your photograph or whatever, and tracing it with a black Sharpie. And then you're pulling it off of that drawing and putting it right onto your backing and tracing it again with your Sharpie onto your backing material, whatever your backing material is, right? Rug warp, monk's cloth, linen, burlap. And sometimes I go in another time and just cover the lines a third time. That sounds nauseating, but just to be sure that all of the information of the line drawing has transferred onto your pattern, right? And for me, this is the best way. Better than netting, better than red dot, better than anything. For me, this is the best stuff for transferring. Oh, are you kidding me, Sharon? It's like $90 in Canada. Oh man, that is rough. Truly great from this Oxford teacher. Thank you. Thank you. That would have made me nervous had I but known, because I know I don't do things exactly the same way. But we all have to have the common sense and, more importantly, the confidence, right, to do things the way that are working better for your body, for your brain, for the way your body sits, for where you're sitting, for the way your hand holds the needle. All of those things have to be taken into account. And your set of answers is different than mine. So we all have to work in such a way. Jacob immediately started turning the needle too. And when people do that, I never say anything in class because I'm thinking that's what's more natural. Sometimes right-handed people grab the needle in their left hand and go, and I don't say anything about that either because I'm thinking that's what's more natural for them. Let's watch and see, right? If things go wrong, then I jump in. But it's usually what you instinctively go for is the right way for you. Never work against your body, ever. It doesn't work. It never works. You won't win. So we will have a part 2 to this. And Candace says, I had to order from Amazon. Oh, they only had the large roll for $50. That's a bummer. If you have a Home Depot or any, not just Home Depot, right, a local hardware store, you could call them and say, I'd like to buy some fiber tape. Is it in stock? Can you get it in stock? Because it really should not be more than 25. And it is like a lifetime supply unless you have a business, right? It's going to last forever. I was selling it by the yard on ribbon candy hooking. Maybe I should put that back up because it doesn't weigh anything to ship it. Maybe I should put that back up. Bob says I used to go on the front of buildings before they screed it. Wait a minute, I must have missed a comment there. I'd like to watch. Oh yeah, definitely watch it from the start. Although we fooled around for a long time. Okay, so
That's a
great.
part of the fun, though.
It is part of the fun. So great to see you all. I'm going to say goodbye and log off with one more view of this fantastic site, Progress. And we will see you on Friday for gallery night. Don't forget to send your pieces in. I want your piece or your drawing or whatever you're working on or whatever you finished, even if it was a while ago. Let's see your stuff, commercial patterns and your own patterns. Let's see that for this coming Friday night, gallery night. That will be at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will see you then.